What is up? Welcome to Magic Pill Mondays Live. I'm your host, Coach Matt O'Brien, author of The Magic Pill. This is your weekly dose to help you live a longer, healthier, and happier life. And that was kind of the purpose of the book, The Magic Pill. So, have you ever had a friend or a family member? Let's say you're meeting for coffee, or you're going to go out for dinner, or maybe you planned a fun trip to Disney World, or something even more serious, like you booked a cruise together. And then when the moment of time comes, you're sitting at the Starbucks and your friend's not there and no text. And then you start worrying, like, is my friend okay? So you text them, hey, are you all right? And still nothing back. And then 15 minutes later, oh, I totally forgot I had to go pick up something from the store or some other excuse, and you're sitting there alone. Have you ever had something like that happen to you? Uh, Welcome to everybody that is joining me. If you are watching live, you can put live in the comments or replay if you watch it back. That just helps me see who's tuning in. I will definitely give you a shout out and reply to your comment. So your effort will be rewarded. That's how we play this game. And I always love participation as we go through this. And, this is hopefully some value for both of us. And I get lots of value preparing for it in the thought process and the research that goes involved. But today, I just kind of want to go a little off topic from health, but I'm going to tie it in. I'm going to share with you why letting your yes be yes is important to your health. So I promise you, I'm going to tie that in today. But back to that scenario, you're sitting all by yourself at Starbucks, you don't hear from your friend, and finally they come back with kind of a weak excuse. How does that make you feel? For me, it happens, and I've had some friends particularly that will plan on meeting up or get together, or even something as simple as like, hey, I'll call you back. You have a conversation, you bump into somebody just randomly at the store, and they're like, hey, let's get together. And they say, yeah. You say, yeah, that'd be a great idea. I miss you. And they'll say, you know what? I'll give you a shot tomorrow. And tomorrow comes and there's no shout from your friend, or weeks go by and you bump into them again and they say, oh man, I forgot to call you back or forgot to reach out. So just kind of curious, how does that make you feel inside on the receiving end of that? I know for me, it's always kind of disappointing. I love getting together with friends. I love the intimacy of conversation, and it's always kind of a disappointment when that happens. Let's talk about another scenario. You're thinking about, or you're planning on meeting somebody at the gym to work out, and you want, official workout buddy. And I'm going to tie this together with some health in a minute, but that's another typical scenario. But give me some scenarios or examples just for future use of situations where that happened somewhat frequently, where somebody let you down. I can tell you, as a business owner, and any business owners that can relate, please put this in the comments. Let me know so I can. Misery loves company, we like to say. But with marketing today in a service-based business, you are not completely reliant on social media, but it is a vehicle. And obviously, my wife and I have invested our time, effort, and energy in social media to build, to provide value first and foremost, but also to build, credibility and likability with our potential audience, with an audience, and, potential customers for my coaching program or our free Facebook group called TrYumph Nation, which, if you're watching this and you're not in TrYumph Nation yet, put nation in the comments, the word nation. TrYumph Nation is our free Facebook group for time-starved, purpose-driven people that want health and happiness in their life. And so we're providing a lot of value in that group. It's grown to over 850 members already. So in a short amount of time, we're super excited about that. And we get a lot of participation on our lives and the posts that we put in there. So we're trying to create a movement. TrYumph Nation, join the movement, like the little logo on the screen you see there. So we want to get America moving, and that's not just moving your bodies, it's also moving our minds. And part of that process is awareness and ownership are two principles that we spend a lot of time talking about. And that kind of ties into letting your yes be yes. I mean, in a word, and I went to the Air Force Academy long time ago. 1991, I graduated, and through our military training that we got a lot of, and leadership training, one of the central principles was integrity. And integrity, like the integrity of a building, is how strong and firm and resilient is the integrity of that structure. But when it comes to our personal integrity, it's basically your projecting your word, your honesty, your trustworthiness to, if you say you're going to do something, what's the likelihood you're going to do it? And if you're promising to help a friend, or you're agreeing to meet somebody for coffee or a workout date, this is where the ownership part comes in the mirror. I asked you earlier if a friend did that to you. Now I want you to turn the tables, and the way you just felt and express to me or express to yourself. If you're not playing along in the comments, I see some comments, unimportant, is a big one, unimportant. I'd like to see some other comments, like how would you feel if somebody didn't show up, or you got stood up on a date, even worse. For those of you that are playing the romance game or out there in the dating world, I'm thankfully not in that, at least not since 17 years ago when I started dating my wife. And we're celebrating number 16 this year. We're doing the math. We got married in 2007. So if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, let me know. But we're super excited about that. And we're going to share over the coming weeks and months, like part of our relationship, our ups and downs, and how we've maintained our sanity and the glue that's held us together, and now getting closer than ever as we move forward. But so back to my question, let's turn the tables. Who is willing to admit, and I'm going to raise my hand first, if you've let somebody down in your life where you committed to meet somebody or do something or help somebody, like, hey, I'll help you move this weekend, or I'll volunteer to help do something at your church or something like that, or hey, I'll meet you at 6 a.m. to do some cardio, and then you don't show up, or you just wake up in the morning, you don't feel like it, and you just don't go. So I want to ask you, to become aware of that and see if you realize if you've done that to somebody else, and then B, more courageously, if you're willing to admit it, you can raise your hand in the comments, just put a hand emoji, or just admit it. So I can tell you, part of taking ownership for the responsibilities in our life is a game changer. It's the first step to becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. And awareness of our blind spots, that's a more challenging, because they're blind. We're blind to them. That's why they call them blind spots. And that's where you may actually get the advice of a trusted friend to ask them, what your blind spots might be. But if you're standing people up for commitments, I can tell you, and you're not thinking that's a big deal, I can tell you that's probably a blind spot for you, and should become aware of the importance of our integrity. So that's what I mean by letting your yes be yes. And thank you for somebody raising their hand. We're using a software so I can see people on Facebook, but I don't see your names unless you are a StreamYard customer, but that's a different point for not for today. But just thank you for participating. And when I go back into my actual Facebook, I'll be able to see who you are and reply to your comments. So thanks for playing along. And let's transition to talking about, why is our integrity and our word or our commitments important to our health? Because, like some of you said, when somebody does it to you, it communicates that you're unimportant. So when you start a pattern of honoring your commitments like they were non-negotiables, and that's kind of the approach I take. And I want to share one other example. I got off topic or off track for us business owners, because this happens on social media marketing all the time. And we'll present an ad or an offer, and people will raise their hand and say they're interested, and they submit their information, and then we try to follow up with them, and then they either don't respond, don't reply, or tell us stop in their text message sequence, or pretend like they never signed up for the offer. That's definitely happening at a greater velocity and frequency these days than it has in the past 5 years that I've been using social media marketing. But the worst thing, the bigger concern, the bigger trend that I've seen, and this is what's upsetting, because I can't, it's not in my DNA to do this to somebody. If I commit to doing something or meeting somebody or booking a Zoom call with somebody that's either reaching out to me or I'm reaching out to them, which I do all the time, and I don't show up or at least give them a courtesy of why I'm running late. This just happened to me last week. Had a coaching call booked with somebody that was donating their time to help me in my business, and I was on the phone with the bank for somebody evidently snagged my business debit card information and started racking up charges. And so I was dealing with that issue, and I did not think it would take 40 plus minutes, but I was in the middle of finally getting connected and finally wrapping that up and resolving what I needed to do on my end so that the bank would first stop the card from any additional charges, and then start the process of reversing those charges. So that was in that critical phase, and talking to somebody after being on hold for a long time. And at the same time, like 4:30 was coming. I'm like, crap, that's when I had this call booked. So it was about 4:37 when I finally expressly got off the phone and just said, thank you very much, gotta go. And saw that I missed the call, immediately called them back. They didn't answer. And then, so I text them back, hey, apologize, explain the situation. I would love to reschedule when you're available, or if you're available now, I am, and I apologized again. And fortunately, we were able to connect and get back on that call. But that whole time I'm with the bank rep, and the stress of the financial situation was less to me than not honoring that commitment to, his name was Mike, who's a high level coach in my industry, and I know his time's valuable. So I was more upset about disappointing him and not letting my yes be yes. So that just happened, and that's going to happen when life gets in the way sometimes. But own it and let the person know and keep them in the loop. And certainly, even if you're going to be late, that ties into that. Just give them a courtesy that you're on the way, so they're not just sitting there wondering minute by minute, because our brains tend to make the worst scenario or situations out of our experiences, and we're always going to imagine the worst. So keep them in the loop. But so that was my last little backstory, but let's talk about why this is important relative to health. So, I'm a functional health coach and master trainer, for those of you who don't know me, and nutritionist. So I work with clients, comprehensively managing stress and sleep and nutrition. And a big piece of that, nutrition and exercise. But the mindset is the most important part. I always preach pretty much that our mind is the most powerful drug on the planet. And if we learn to harness it and the power of a positive mindset and the power of awareness, the power of ownership, you know, we are going to be way more successful in any endeavors or goals that we set. So, relative to integrity, it's like when you communicate to somebody, let's say a friend, that you're going to do something and then you don't do it, you're also not only communicating to them that, their time wasn't important or you didn't value it enough to honor that commitment, but you're also sending a subconscious message to yourself that you are not trustworthy, you are not reliable. Your brain does not miss that point, trust me. And when that happens and those start adding up, you're going to continuously feel more and more like a failure. And that is not the mindset that we want to cultivate and certainly harvest in our lives in the garden of life, using that metaphor. But so if you do that to a friend or say staff, if you own a business, or your coworkers, if you work somewhere, just think about that. What about your kids? If, for my parents out there, any parents, raise your hands. Let me know how many kids you have, just as a curious question. Put I have X amount of kids in the comments if you're willing. Think about the message that you're sending to your kids when they observe that you say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. And then you ask them to do something. And then they say, well, mommy, you don't do it, or you didn't do it yesterday when you told daddy you were going to go to the store. Kids don't miss anything. Trust me. I have two of them, two boys, and we're sending a powerful message. Our kids will model our behaviors whether you like it or not, and they're completely observant. And if you don't think so, just say something under your breath that's relevant to them, and they could be 3 rooms away, and I bet you they'll hear it and ask you to repeat it. So that's just another thing to think about. And then most importantly, which I alluded to, is what message are you sending to yourself when you do that? And that's those feelings of guilt and failure, which we as human beings are so apt and prone to focus on. So the first step, if this is an issue for you, that's not a problem. The problem is if you don't become aware of it and do something about it and make improvements and forward steps to make that an area that you're aware of. And then, when you do commit to something, don't overcommit yourself. If you can't absolutely do it, and when I have book a client now, or if I book a consultation, it just happened to me last week for a consultation I was booking for this week. And a gentleman, I'll just call him Tony, said, we went back and forth a couple times and finally found a time. And he said, 1:00 on Wednesday should work. And I said back to him, should or will work? Question mark. And I said, I value commitment. Your time is valuable to me, and my time is hopefully valuable to you. And I was just setting a boundary there, but also kind of coaching him on the importance of, let's pick something that you can absolutely commit to, because if you give yourself wiggle room, like I will try to make it, or I might do something, or I may be there, you're really not committing. And that's, to me, I don't ever take those words as commitment. And if I'm planning on meeting with somebody that involves my time and my energy and my space, which is precious, and yours is too, I will clarify with that person, like, making more firm language so that we know the boundaries that we set for each other. But I'm also giving them the boundaries so that they will honor their commitments. And I know that's going to be valuable to them going forward. So that's where that's important when we make commitments. And now in your life, that should be an area that's universal. But now let's talk about relevant to health. And I'm actually going to talk about one of the next pillars today. last week, if you didn't catch that, I talked about how you can have your cake and eat it too and still lose weight. So if that's of interest, you should watch that back from last week. That was a really interesting conversation. And I talked about my protein forward strategy and how you can sequence your nutrients so that you can still have cake and not raise your blood sugar significantly and therefore not reduce the likelihood you're going to store fat. So that was a little summary from last week. But this week, we're going to tie in a little bit about exercise. But why I led with integrity and letting your yes be yes, because when it comes to exercise, which arguably is a little uncomfortable, you might get a little sweaty. You might endure a little bit of discomfort. For some, it's painful, and soreness is, yes, it's painful, but it's part of the process. It's like anything valuable in life or worth having. The view at the top of the mountain is going to be more spectacular the steeper the climb. And that's another example that energy put forth and the effort and pain that comes with that is well worth it. But when it comes to exercise, people are, from my experience, it's easy to decommit on themselves. So I want you to build your integrity and your yes in all areas of your life so that when you commit to yourself in a coach, or if you're not working with a coach, I'm going to recommend you commit to another human being, find a workout buddy, because we're more likely to quit on ourselves than we are with somebody else. And that's because we don't want to be judged, or we're more worried about their opinion than our own opinion of ourselves. So I would just advise you that if you're getting started in a health and fitness routine, that you find a workout buddy or a walking buddy or walking partner to meet, and both commit to a certain day and time or days and time, and do it together. And I have some exciting news that I'm not going to share, but I'm going to tease you that we have something really big happening this week, particularly with our TrYumph Nation Facebook group. But we'll be talking about it as much as possible. But certainly, exciting opportunity if you do want some hand holding, some guidance to help you on the journey to health, and you want that journey to begin. We're going to have a no-brainer opportunity to help you in what I'm calling the year of life, the year of your life, the year of your best life. So that will be coming. So look for that. If that's something you're interested in, put year of life in the comments, and I'll make sure you become aware of what we're going to be talking about in a spectacular opportunity we're going to present later this week. But going back to your health, when you make a commitment to do something, having that integrity is going to increase significantly the likelihood of your success. So that's why I kind of went on that little bit of a rant. And those of you that have suffered the painful consequences of somebody leaving you hanging, remember the golden rule: don't treat others as you want to be treated. So if you get mistreated, two wrongs don't make a right. Just go out of your way to remember how that made you feel, and don't do that to somebody else. So that being said, when it comes to exercise, um, finding a workout buddy, like if you haven't followed it, I just launched this. It's going to be actually a podcast that we're loading up in a YouTube episode weekly called the Fat2Fit Show with the coach, which is me, and Chris, which is the client. And Chris is a very successful businessman, and he's on a journey from morbid obesity, a 1-year journey from morbid obesity to optimum health. And so we had that live on Friday, and it will be uploaded and launched on YouTube Premiere tomorrow. So if you're a YouTuber, you can watch it there. And then we're also going to be we also recorded that as a podcast. So lots of ways to follow that as we go through the Fat2Fit show. And we're making it a challenge as well. So we're hopefully rallying some people to either encourage both of us through the process, but mostly Chris, and or join us on the journey and, see what can happen in that year for you. And that's ties into what we're doing with our Year of Life program that we'll be talking about later this week. But let's go into exercise. So my book, The Magic Pill, which I'm not trying to plug it or anything, but big into metaphors and similes, if you know what that is, analogies. But the magic pill is a metaphor for movement and exercise is the magic pill. So the introduction of this book is, if there's a pill that you could take and it would help you feel better, sleep better, live longer, look better, lose weight, improve your overall health, decrease the likelihood of getting all the major diseases, improve your vitality, improve your sex drive, improve your motivation, decrease your depression. The list goes on and on. Would that be a pill that you would take? Would that be a prescription that you would want? How much would you pay for that? That is kind of the setup and the metaphor that the magic pill is all about. And each chapter represents the different areas of health, what I call the pillars of health, and how those affect and the things that we can do that will be improved. And exercise is by far the most powerful longevity drug on the planet. And that was a point I made in the book when I published it. And just recently, Peter Attia, who's arguably the most respected practicing physician in the country, came out with his book called Outlive. And I quoted him several times already in saying that exercise is the best longevity drug, bar none. And he says, for his practice, that's a important biomarker like blood pressure and cholesterol for his patients. And he puts 50 times more significant weight on exercise than blood pressure, as one example. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about exercise. I kind of stopped beating that drum for a while, and I'm disappointed that I did that, because more of us need to beat that drum and support each other, because exercise, while it does require time, energy, and effort, it is the most proven thing that we can do that doesn't take a lot of time and it doesn't cost that much, that has absolutely 100% guaranteed results for improving your health and improving your longevity. So let me just bullet point 5 of the most significant health benefits related to exercise. So in the comments, if you're watching, let me know if you are exercising in some capacity now, or what's your favorite form of exercise, or just going back to awareness. If you're willing to admit that you're not exercising now, put that in the comments. And what I learned in reading the book Atomic Habits, which we're going to talk a lot about habits too, not just on this show, but we have in our Facebook group that I mentioned earlier, TrYumph Nation. If you're just joining me, please, if you have any interest in improving your health, put nation, the word nation, in the comments, and we'll invite you into TrYumph Nation, our Facebook group that is promoting health and happiness for time-starved, purpose-driven people. That's our mission, is to help people get and maintain their health and have fun doing it without completely giving up your lifestyle. So it's a very realistic approach. But exercise has to be a big, important part of any plans and programs related to health and longevity. So the big benefits of the top 5, I would say, is number 1, exercise improves cardiovascular health. So heart attacks are the number 1 killer of Americans and the worldwide leader in deaths currently. And exercise dramatically decreases the likelihood that you would have a heart attack. It's not foolproof guaranteed, but it's the single biggest factor that will decrease your likelihood of having a cardiovascular event. And it does that in many ways. And one is lowering your blood pressure. It's also going to decrease your cholesterol levels. It's going to improve your good cholesterol, which is called HDL. And one of the things that I talked about, it's kind of a little discussed or little known and discussed benefit of exercise, but arguably one of the most important is the elasticity, the stretchiness of our blood vessels, our arteries and our veins that circulate the blood throughout our bodies. Arteries move blood, oxygenated blood from the heart to our working cells, and then the veins take that depleted oxygen blood and the carbon dioxide and bring it back to the lungs where you exhale. And then pretty cool. But those arteries, if over time they get less elastic or less stretchy, think of an old rubber band that maybe you had. Most people don't have newspapers these days, but the newspapers are wrapped in a rubber band. We used to save them and do things, wrap them around your hands. But as they get older, like that rubber band gets a little more brittle and then it snaps really easy. It doesn't stretch as much or it will just break. And the same thing happens with our arteries through exercise or lack of exercise. Those arteries are going to get less stretchy and more brittle over time. And that, when you get little micro tears in your arteries, that's where the healing process and the plaque formation of heart disease starts. So if you can prevent the tear in the first place, that is kind of the root cause of heart disease or atherosclerosis, technical term. So if you can maintain elastic arteries, then there's less likely that they're going to tear in the first place, so that your body can heal that tear, and then the cholesterol gets kind of rammed into the tear as part of the healing process, and it forms like the plaque that you may have heard about. And then if that plaque keeps forming and then eventually possibly ruptures, then you get a blood clot that can completely block off your artery or significantly decrease the blood flow. And if that artery is flowing blood to your heart, the working muscle of your heart, and the heart muscle has no oxygen, it will die. And that's what a heart attack is, or what they call a myocardial infarction. Heart muscle death is what that means. But so that's one of the hidden gems of exercise, and why I try to educate my clients, like, move your ass so that you can keep those flexible blood vessels. And besides increasing blood flow to our heart and the elasticity, in the bedroom, not to get graphic, I'm not going to get graphic, but vascular blood flow to your working sex tools, we'll call it, your reproduction centers, your genitalia, that works better too. So if that's an area of concern in your life, or things aren't as magical as they used to be, that is another benefit of exercise related to blood flow. And Viagra, which everybody's heard about, I think, is basically a nitric oxide booster. And nitric oxide dilates the blood vessels, particularly in the genital area, but elsewhere as well. But guess what does that naturally? Exercise is a nitric oxide booster. So exercise is like Viagra. So that's also one of the chapters of the book. So the next one is mental health. And one of the chapters is titled Better Than Prozac. Exercise by far, and a lot of our clients come just for the mental health benefits, the way they feel when they exercise. Or like myself, the way I feel when I don't exercise. It's crappy. It's horrible. I've talked about in the past that I'm very prone, just genetically, to depression. And it's real easy for me to slip down that slope. And I've been there, and I don't want to go back there. So that fear of slipping down that slope of depression is so powerful to me that it will motivate me, no matter how inconvenient or perceived pain of exercise, I'm going to get it in so that I don't slip down that slope. By day 3, day 4, I start feeling the onset of depression. And the way exercise deals with that, or prevents or makes it less likely, is that it elevates the levels of our feel good hormones like dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, which is like our love hormone, and endorphins, which are pain management hormones, are morphine like substances that help control pain. So if you have pain in your body and you're not exercising, it's usually, oh, I can't exercise because I'm in pain. I'm telling you, the pain that you might endure in the exercise is over time going to resolve the pain you're experiencing from whatever is. And it's probably somewhat connected to lack of movement. Because if you did get injured, movement helps promote healing. So I always kind of caution my clients when they hurt themselves or pull a muscle or tweak something, keep moving because that's going to speed up the healing process. But related to mental health, I would say exercise, and mental health is a very serious issue in our country and the world today. Suicide rates are up. Um, the stress and anxiety that the timelines we're all under in our never off the grid society, mental health is a significant concern. So if you're anxious and your brain won't shut off, you know, workouts will help quiet that. I always say, well, exercise is like an antidote to anxiety. So it's not foolproof. It can't cure really bad situations, but it certainly can be part of the process. And I would encourage you to work with your doctor if you are being treated for a mental health condition, to ask them to incorporate or encourage you or to incorporate some form of exercise to help in that area. So that's number 2. Number 3 is increasing strength and flexibility. And when it comes to functional health span, um, and in the comments, real quick, just put how long would you like to live and still be able to do the things you like to do? Like the not the activities of daily living, that's kind of boring. No, I'm talking about like passionate hobbies like skiing or hiking or playing with your kids or grandkids. Put an age, like let's quantify it. Put an age in the comments of, what age would you love to live to doing those things? And how cool would it be to extend that age? And that's what exercise can do, to the tune of 2 decades. What they've found in studies of centenarians and long-lived functionally healthy adults is that movement and preserving your muscle now is the number one correlator to functional health or longevity or functional health span, meaning how long you can do the fun stuff, is what I would consider functional health span. And the number one predictor of how long that will be is your strength and muscle mass. So that's number 1. Number 2 would be your cardiorespiratory fitness, or what we call the VO2 max, which you can get tested in the lab. Definitely not encouraging you to do that. Not necessary, but you can definitely do strenuous exercise and figure out, not saying if you're not exercising, go right out and do strenuous exercise. Caution you got to progress slowly, but build up to that. So that is number 2 in terms of strength, cardiorespiratory, and then the other benefit is flexibility. So if you may be experiencing this yourself, where you're losing your ability in range of motion with your shoulders and your hips and your knees, strength training is a great promoter of flexibility and range of motion. So that would be exercise or benefit number 3. Number 4, it improves immune function. And I know the big C word, not cancer, the other one, COVID, demonstrated the importance of comorbidities and the impact of a virus on our health and our death rate or mortality. And those people that had the worst experiences with COVID had comorbidities that were in some way, shape, or form connected to the lack of exercise, movement, and obesity. So, exercise is like an immune booster. It's like getting a natural vaccine that doesn't have side effects for those of you anti-vaxxers. And there's pros and cons for sure on both sides of every story. But if you want all the benefits without any of the risks, like exercise is the best immune booster on the planet. And I see some people join us. Christina, glad you're going to watch the rest of the replay. Watch that back for sure, because we talked a lot about letting your yes be yes. For those of you just joining us now, please watch it back. I think that's the most important part of this Magic Pill Monday. And then the last one, which used to be the primary reason people would book a consultation with me, was weight management or losing weight. And exercise helps with weight loss, not in the way most people think. There's a lot of bullshit and mythology when it comes to exercise and weight loss. And I would say most people left to their own devices or the lack of awareness are going to go do cardio to lose weight. And many studies, and two in particular that were 1-year studies, proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that doing an hour of cardio a day, 5 times a week, had less than 2% impact on weight loss. So it's very ineffective. Cardiovascular is highly critical and part of the process, but the number one and two types of exercise that you should be doing related to weight management is strength training, or what I call compound strength training circuits. So you're getting cardiovascular by pairing exercises. Compound movements means multiple joints, lots of muscles being involved, like squats or squat to push press, or assisted pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, stuff like that. And then combination of those exercises, those done in a proper sequence, you can get cardiovascular benefits while you're also doing strength training. But the reason it works so well for weight loss, and this is why it's such a critical part of my weight loss program, is because it builds metabolic resiliency to the weight you're losing. Because most people, when you lose weight just doing cardio, you're actually going to strip muscle at an accelerated rate, and 40% of the weight you lose could be muscle. And why that's important is because when you stop dieting, your muscle determines your metabolism. I mean, almost exclusively. So if you lose muscle, you're also losing metabolism to the tune of about 30 calories per pound of muscle. So I've heard 30 up to 50. I'm going to lowball it and say 30, because if you lose 10 pounds of muscle and 20 pounds of fat, you just lost 300 calories of metabolism. So you go back to eating your normal 2,000 calories that you were before. Now your metabolism is 300 calories slower. That explains why you put the weight right back on. So lifting weights, and let's say you gain muscle, the reverse can happen, where now as you're losing fat, you're preserving muscle or gaining muscle. You can preserve metabolism or gain muscle. Or gain metabolism. So if you gain 10 pounds of muscle, now your metabolism went up by 300 calories. Then you can go back and maintain at 2,300 calories instead of 2,000. Whereas in the reverse scenario, you would gain fat at 2,000 calories. So that's why the beauty of longevity in terms of long-term weight management, you got to incorporate the strength training. Besides that, it protects your joints. It keeps your nervous system working optimally. You're less likely to fall. If you do fall, you're going to be less likely to break something important. So weight management, strength training is important. And then the cardio, like zone 2, which is 185 minus your age, is an approximation of what zone 2 heart rate would be. But if you're using a heart rate monitoring system like we do, you can kind of dial it in at 70 to 72% is about zone 2. And that's where those mitochondria of your cells are learning how to burn more fat for fuel, and you're retraining them to become metabolically functional. So that's just another benefit. And right now, the biggest health concern is not obesity. That's just a byproduct of metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction is kind of the root cause to most chronic disease or diseases of aging, cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and obesity. So, metabolic dysfunction at a root cause, strength training, cardio, eating real food, sleep, recovery, stress management, um, avoiding things that are inflammatory to you. Like these are all pieces of the puzzle to reverse metabolic dysfunction. And if you think you're not metabolically dysfunctional, there's a 9 in 10 chance, or 9 out of 10, 90% chance that you are on the spectrum of metabolic dysfunction. Where you're at, and if your doctor said, looked at your blood work and he said, oh, you're healthy, if he's not or she is not testing ApoB, fasting insulin levels, uric acid levels, triglycerides, HDL, and A1C. We'll throw that one in. That's just a ballpark. Those are the critical few tests that you have to get done to at least have a picture of what your metabolic function is. And if you have all those numbers, great job for your doctor for ordering them, and you have no idea what they mean. I'd be happy to help you interpret them if you have the numbers, but your doctor should be doing that for you. But, that is kind of a quick overview of some labs. I'm going to do a whole episode on knowing your numbers that will go through all these in more detail and what tests to have and what the numbers mean and what to look for. So, that is why exercise is so beneficial for your health, your functional health span, and kicking ass doing the things you want to do. So hopefully you got some value out of today, Magic Pill Monday, and put in the comments, any topic related to health that you may be interested in hearing more about. I know a lot of people are concerned about hormone health, stress, sleep is always a popular topic. Sleep, I consider the foundation of health, and the pillars sit on top of it. Because if you manage your sleep, and that starts with measuring it, that will do as a topic for a future episode, which I've done in the past, and I've done trainings on it, and it's an important part of my coaching program. But, all these things tie together, and not to confuse you, there's basically some very simple principles to keep yourself healthy. I call that the forest, and keeping yourselves focused on simple, actionable steps that we can do in those pillars of health and the foundations of sleep. It's not complicated. We just have to commit. Let our yes be yes. If you didn't see the beginning, watch it back. Let your yes be yes. When you commit to something, specifically or particularly exercise, put some integrity and some weight behind it. Find yourself a workout buddy or a coach or a trainer or a group training facility like we have at TrYumph. And I guess I'll wrap up with a story what kind of spawned this talk. And I should have said this in the beginning, but I came back on a red eye last night, or this morning. We got in, it was late, and we got in a little after 6 something. And then it was on Spirit Airlines, where the seats don't recline, and you're kind of crammed in there. So it wasn't a lot of sleep happening. Got about an hour and 45-minute nap once we got home. And I had a follow-up appointment at the VA for my cardiovascular event that happened 2 months ago, which, if you didn't see that, had a weird atrial flutter. And so as part of the follow-up, which, by the way, everything was great. My EKG was normal, and the doctor said he used some ratio CCAX. I don't remember what the score was, but he said mine was excellent, so I didn't have to continue taking the medications that are part of the preventative process. But so anyway, I had committed to those appointments. So at 10 a.m. and I would much rather be sleeping. And then my plan was to do that and then catch another quick nap. And then I had some appointments this afternoon. But the whole point of it is like I had committed to doing Magic Pill Mondays. That's why it's called that, on Mondays around 7 o'clock. And I kind of said, let your yes be yes. I'd rather be sleeping right now, and I'm going to go to bed very early tonight. But that was kind of the motivation for the program to myself. So committing to doing this and doing it, now I reinforce myself that I'm a man of my word. And so that's what I'm encouraging you to do. When you make a commitment, don't do it flippantly or callously. Do it with integrity and honor those commitments. You're doing your person that you committed to a favor. You're sending them a message that you're reliable, but more importantly, you're sending yourself and your subconscious that you are reliable, successful, and committed, and a person of value, honesty, and integrity. So big booster for your overall awareness and health and self-esteem and becoming the best person that you can be. So if you found that helpful or found today's topic helpful, let me know. You can obviously share this on Facebook with others that you might find value. I'm hoping that this provides value, and as we go forward, if anything I can do to support you, please reach out, let me know. We have an online coaching program, and that's a little bit of a teaser. I mentioned earlier that we're going to be launching soon, or talking about soon. A very crazy special opportunity this week is coming. So y'all have an amazing evening, having a great week, and we'll see you next Monday on Magic Pill Mondays live with Coach Matt. Y'all take care, and we'll see you next week. Ciao.